All right, everybody. Well, it's crawfish season, and so we thought we'd bring someone in from Baton Rouge today for another Confessions of a Street Broker. Mr. Alex Ruch with ELIFIN. What's up, man?
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm glad this all worked out. It's cool when I can get someone from out of town because I've had people be like, oh, hey, I'll come on your podcast. I'm like, all right, when are you coming to Dallas? They're like, well, we can't do it online. I'm like, nope, I don't do them online. So
yeah, this is way better.
Yeah.
Not that I've done an online one, but
yeah, I have, and they're okay. They work, but like, I don't know. It's not what I envisioned for what I was doing.
right.
So,
No, it worked out. My uncle and my grandparents, both of my dad's brothers and my grandparents live here, and
yeah,
my cousin's getting married today, so
yeah,
I double dipped on the trip.
there you go. There you go. Where's your cousin getting married at?
In Dallas. I sent Jeff the address, and he said, like, watch your back. So we're taking like a car. It's a nice place, you know, but we're not parking cars there.
Yeah. So. How did we first get hooked up? Just through social media, I think? Or?
Yeah, actually, you before I got into the industry, I listened to a couple of Chad Griffith's podcasts.
Okay.
And you were on one of those.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I just cold called you or emailed you to see if you'd buy in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Which you won't.
Yeah.
But
Jeff will.
Yeah, Jeff will and has. But yeah, that was the main connection.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
yeah,
I connected with Jeff because he owned a building, you know, in my submarket. Mm-hmm. And when he called me back, I thought he was you, and I was like, "Wait, do you have a podcast?" So kind of a funny.
Someone, there's a broker here in Dallas that asked me to go to lunch, and it just never happened. Mm-hmm. And then Jeff told me the other day, he goes, hey, I went to the lunch with this guy. He goes, and we get halfway through lunch, and he thought I was you the whole time.
That's hilarious. Y'all do, Isabella reminded me, but y'all do sound very similar.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've gotten that a lot.
Yeah, no, we've been asked before if we're twins. You can't, if you're talking to us on the phone, it's pretty tough to. Mm-hmm. It's funny, we all have the same mannerisms. Our children have the same mannerisms. Like, if you watch my son walk around, he walks around like me and Jeff. If you watch Jeff's daughter walk around, she's walking around like me and Jeff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's,
I love it.
Imprinting.
What's the age gap?
6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but, you know, he was always really good to just drag me around everywhere. And, you know, his friends are my friends and vice versa. And, you know, so
yeah,
we were always just best friends growing up.
Yeah, I mean, the article behind you,
you
know, mentions, that's a cool article. By the way.
Yeah, no, that was, it's funny. So they used to give out this Rookie of the Year award in Dallas for brokerage. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny. I didn't know what it was, but I got a call from the Dallas Business Journal one day, and they're like, "Hey, we need to interview you." I was like, "Oh, okay," because they used to have. So it was pretty cool. They used to do a good job of it. They don't do it anymore, but it was like top tenant rep broker for the year, and like their best deal, and then like top office tenant rep, top industrial tenant rep, top investment sales, or whatever. And that was and they did Rookie of the Year all the time. So and we had Boozer had won it the year before. I won it that year. And it's funny because they called me. They're like, hey, we need to interview you. And so I called Todd Hubbard and I was like, hey, man, so like, what do they interview you for about this stuff? He goes, I don't know. They're not interviewing me. I was like, well, why are they interviewing me? They're not interviewing you. Right. So I didn't understand that I was winning the Rookie of the Year. Yeah. So it was cool
that you gave your brother some credit. So
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. No, that's what, but like, us growing up was always just whatever he's doing, I was doing it, and, it's, I was talking to him the whole way in here today and, we're always scheming. So.
I have one brother. He's 19 months younger than me.
Yeah.
That's it. Just us two, but he sort of followed me around and was the bat boy on the baseball, always around too.
Yeah. So. I was the ball boy for Jeff's
there you go.
Football teams, and, when he was in high school. And so that was, So that's cool. It's cool. I'm very fortunate to have that relationship, and, and have someone to bounce those things off of. And did you get your brother in the business?
I've thought about it. Yeah. He's an occupational therapist, so we're a little ways off, but he doesn't know that I've thought about it even.
Yeah.
But I've thought about it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, man, let's just start from the beginning. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah. I'm from Baton Rouge.
Okay.
We moved there when I was 4. My dad had a job. He's a chemical engineer, but I'm from Baton Rouge.
Okay. Yeah.
I have one memory of Florida.
Yeah.
But grew up in Baton Rouge and went to. There's a lot of Catholics.
Yeah.
In South Louisiana, so a lot of Catholic schools. So I went to Catholic school, basically K through 12, and had a pretty normal upbringing. Mm-hmm. Played baseball, basketball, football year round.
Yeah.
Until high school, and then I, did normal kid things, and then when I got to high school, I pared down to football, and basketball for my freshman year, and then after that, I just focused on football.
Yeah.
So, in my former days, my wife still laughs at pictures of me. I was 30, 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And
that's what, my wife, when she met me, I was down to 230. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I was 285 pounds about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
She was like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's funny. People will see pictures of me, like, at that stage of my life, they're like, I didn't realize you're, a lot of people are like, did you play DB? I'm like, no.
Yeah. I lost it quick between going from 6 meals to 3 meals and not working out as much. I mean, I shed pounds fast.
Yeah. Females was my motivation. 285. You're not really like bringing them in.
I don't know. Jason Kelsey, I mean.
Yeah, but I wasn't 6'5". You kind of distribute that a lot better, right? So
Right.
It's funny too, because I still feel like I'm still fighting the eating habits of football.
Yeah. Oh, my eyes are way bigger. Yeah. It's tough, but coffee helps.
Yeah. Every time I had this guy I worked with, and he's like, every time I think I'm hungry, I just have a cup of coffee, and then I'm not really hungry anymore.
Seriously.
So, I've noticed that though. Like in Louisiana, it's like everybody's like a Catholic high school.
Yeah. It's it's, I don't know the percentages, but if you're a betting man, you would bet that you went to school at a Catholic school.
Yeah.
If you're in Baton Rouge.
And that seemed to be pretty, I don't know if that's like a Southeast thing, because like when Tommy, Jeff's son, was at IMG, I felt like all the teams they played locally were all Catholic schools in the Tampa area.
Yeah. Southeast, I would say real like Gulf Coast Southeast. Like if you go North Louisiana, North Alabama, North Mississippi, it's a little more Bible Belt Protestant.
Yeah.
But along the coast, and even I guess into the Panhandle, and I don't know exactly where IMG is.
It's in Bradenton, Sarasota area.
Gotcha.
So hour south of Tampa.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty heavy Catholic population in Florida too.
Yeah. But did you Catholic it up with Narduzzi?
So ironically, one of my roommate post.
Oh, this is right.
Yeah. My roommate after the seminary, which I can talk about that.
Yeah.
Paul, shout out to Paul. He knows Will very well. I don't know how exactly.
They went to go high school together, or they were roommates in college for a semester, or something, or roommates abroad, or something.
Yeah, they did something together.
Something through Catholicism.
Right. So I'd like to meet Will if he's here today.
Oh, he's there. He's back there. Okay. I can hear him right now.
It's funny. I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
But
okay, so football in high school. What's next?
Yeah, so basically, just to backtrack briefly, in the 7th grade, I started to feel what I can only describe as a call to the priesthood. Like I felt like I was being called to the priesthood, which is a big deal in the Catholic world because Catholic priests don't get married. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a call to be a pastor in any sense, I think is a sacrifice and a call. But that's a unique element of a call to the priesthood, and that's normally the big hiccup for people, or the hang up rather.
Yeah.
So, but that call was like persistent through high school, even with girlfriends and sports and all that. Like, I just couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
So I went to Millsaps
Okay.
for one semester. I played D3 football there, linebacker.
Uh-huh.
And finally just decided I got to do something about this
feeling.
goal. Yeah. Which I didn't immediately enter the seminary, but I did take a gap year, and I went and lived up in Minnesota and did some domestic missionary work, which I love my time in. And I was in the Twin Cities. First time I ever experienced 4 seasons in a year.
Yeah, it's a different weather climate.
Yeah,
there.
but it was cool. I mean, the changing of the real snow for a long time.
Yeah.
But and then while I was there, I finally resolved and was at peace with and excited about going to the seminary and giving it a shot.
Yeah.
So I went to the seminary in Covington, Louisiana, just north of New Orleans. And I was there for 3 years and I loved it. I mean, I was up in the woods. It's run by monks in the woods, hundreds of acres. Spent a ton of time in prayer and silence and studying. My undergraduate degree is actually in philosophy.
Yeah.
And so just read a lot of books and as part of our curriculum, but that time was so formative for me. And they tell you when you go, they're like, we're going to form you to be a father, whether you end up being a spiritual father or a earthly father, you know? So my wife's very grateful for, my time there.
Yeah.
No regrets at all. But about midway through my time there, I definitely felt like I was called to go.
Mm-hmm.
But something was not quite right. My best way I explain it to people is, it's like you're just dating the wrong person. It just, something felt off, even though I felt called to go. So I basically at the end of my second year, I decided to probably wasn't going to finish out, but they encouraged me to get my degree, finish out a year, just make sure, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And, but one of my friends at the seminary, his dad owns the largest printing company. Isabel and I were talking about printing, printed stuff. He owns the largest printing company in the state. It's based in Baton Rouge, locally owned, and they do all sorts of things. And when I was preparing to leave the seminary, I'm like, what am I going to do with a philosophy degree? I thought about teaching and coaching heavily, going back to my old high school. But my seminary formator, priest, and who's actually now in Fort Worth, he said, "Go get a normal job, like kind of just get out of the out of this world for a minute."
Yeah.
A lot of, but so my buddy, his dad owns this 100,000. They have 100,000 square feet, which isn't huge, but it's
that's a big printer,
right? Yeah, it is. Yeah. They do a lot. He told me his dad was looking to hire like a sales rep, and I had no clue about the business world. I was pretty steeped in the Catholic world. So I didn't have any other prospects lined up. So I took a job. I mean, I graduated in May and started working 2 weeks later at this printing company in sales.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that, I was there for 5 years and I had a good run doing outside sales. What's crazy is that I was subtly or slowly being prepared to get into commercial real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, for one, I was in 100,000 square feet of like manufacturing. They have tons of inventory on the floor, so they had large amount of racking and warehousing, dock high doors, 3-phase power. I was just working at the company, Ironically, at ELIFIN, at our firm, we're submarket specialists as well. That building is in my submarket.
Yeah.
So I was like working in my submarket in industrial real estate for 5 years before I, made the switch.
That's very similar to me.
Yeah. Y'all have it was your dad's?
Yeah. So I bought my dad's steel company. And then, to start, Jeff had started buying buildings in the Stemmons corridor, and I became the property manager. And I had a studio that I ran in the middle of Brook Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And, so like property manage, and then I was running my dad's company that I bought, and then I was in a building, and this is when the great financial crisis happened, and my landlord wanted to go up on my rent. I was like, nah. And my tenant rep, Jeff Mercer, just happened to have a building on Chancellor Road come available. So it worked out great. I ended up moving there. And then eventually he's like, hey, why don't you just come broker? And I was like, okay. And he's like, so I just did laps around the steel company selling buildings all day long, so in the studio.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Y'all sold that company or?
Yeah, I sold it in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank God. That was
yeah. I've heard you talk about it before.
Yeah. It just, I tried to grow it too fast and it caught me. Caught me pretty hard. I learned a lot, lost a lot of money, about went broke, pretty much went broke.
Wow.
I had a partner walk off with some money, big lawsuit, all these things. Man. So, but
is that company still operating in that facility?
The company that bought me was a very large company.
Okay.
They are no longer operating that facility. And, it's kind of interesting in business knowing what you are and what you are not. And, I think at the end of the day, these guys didn't know what they couldn't stick with what they are. And they were like, if you imagine, you've seen a big Tex trailer or a PJ trailer, right?
Yep.
These guys make every single one of them.
Wow.
And they're huge. They got 400 employees, fab and steel 24 hours a day. They push 2.5 million pounds of steel a week.
Wow.
And but making a trailer is like plus or minus a knuckle. Well, I built I did ballistic armor upfits for ground combat vehicle fabrication. Like I was ballistic armor upfitting every vehicle going to the IDF,
Wow.
I was making the Amazon conveyor system going into a building for Siemens, or a postal system. Like we were plus or minus the thickness of this piece of paper on a bend, we were precision. And
Wow.
I think they took it over and they didn't know how to do quality like that. And they ruined my Siemens account, multiple rejections. All this stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're just like, let's just go build trailers.
Right. Part of my question too was in light of the onshoring movement.
Yeah.
If that facility was, part of the question I have, and this is an aside, obviously, but with this very recent, the tariffs and the vision is like, how much infrastructure do we have right now to start manufacturing right now?
Yeah.
Because the sooner we can start doing it right now, the better for, I think my take on this whole, everything that's happened in the last 2 days even is like long-term, short-term pain for long-term gain. That's the hope, I hope.
Well, isn't it when someone comes in and takes over a troubled company, they strip it down to its most common denominator. And then, I was talking to someone about this yesterday. I was like, it's like when you go to the military, right? They're like, not that I haven't been in the military, but you hear like a drill sergeant tell someone, I'm going to break you down and then build you back up.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. But it's interesting. I'm curious, if you go to the Rust Belt, like how many of those buildings can actually
come back to life?
Yeah. How far are they from being up to code? Because that would help.
Well, they're probably one day away from being up to code because cities will probably just give them to you.
Yeah, that's fair.
To start it back up. Like, do you know, like the Rogue Corporation that got real big during CrossFit that built all the bars and all the kettlebells and all that stuff? You ever seen that brand, ROUGE, Rogue?
I probably have, but I don't know.
Anyways, they capitalized on the CrossFit wave and made all the equipment. And they got like a building in Ohio that's like 200,000 feet for free, pretty much.
Wow.
To go do it in.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm sure hoping that yeah, we don't have to go build a bunch of buildings. That's my hope.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there's going to be plenty of availability to backfill it. And if so, then we will just build buildings. It's not that big.
Yeah,
of
it won't
a deal.
take that long, I guess.
No,
a year.
No, it wouldn't be that bad. So, so you're unknowingly walking around your submarket,
right?
Yeah,
yeah, and I was doing well there, but as the longer I was there, the more being a W-2 employee, just started to not jive with me. I didn't love the limited days off. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't. And my pay was, good, but I could see that I was starting to hit an upper limit.
Yeah.
And that it would take a lot of time and it just wouldn't be easy to make much more.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the long-term prospect of that time and money. So I actually have a couple of partners at ELIFIN are acquaintances of mine. One went to my high school. He's my brother's age, actually. Mm-hmm. And one is a kind of a friend, loosely speaking. And I heard in like 21 or 22 that they both like killed it.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, man, they can't be working that much harder than me.
Yeah.
Turns out,
yeah,
there's definitely a price to be paid for the success. But, that at that point in time, my wife and I, we had paid off our house. We just, even with 2.5% interest, we paid it off in like 18 months.
Yeah.
And had a good nest egg. And so it just felt like, basically at that point when I heard how much money they had made, I knew the flexibility that they had, in theory. Mm-hmm. I pursued ELIFIN, which is, a large brokerage in the Baton Rouge area.
Yeah.
And I had eyed ELIFIN for a while. Like I knew about them. They were growing. They were, admirable. I was calling on them.
Yeah.
And ironically, I got their business. It took me a couple of years to get their signed business. Yeah. And like 2 weeks later, I joined. Yeah, it was
hey, that's a good parting gift for your employer.
Yeah,
hey, I'm leaving, but I won the account I'm leaving to.
I landed Smalls Sliders, if you're familiar with Smalls. No? Okay, they're based in Atlanta. They're a little chain. But they have some Texas. Anyways, I landed one other big account like right before I left.
Yeah.
But anyways, I started looking into it, and even though it's 100% commission, no base pay or whatever, the support that ELIFIN offered between the marketing, the support staff, the research team, I felt like if I just am a decent human with decent sales skills and a work ethic, like this is kind of a more guaranteed money than not.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going out there just trying to figure it out. I mean, it's a well-oiled machine. And that's been the case. I mean, I joined ELIFIN in June of 2023. So not even 2 full years.
Yeah.
And it's been life-changing.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
That's awesome. How big is Baton Rouge?
I saw a stat this week. Glad I saw it. Because otherwise I think the Baton Rouge area chamber or whatever said that the metro is 800,000.
Okay.
Like that. So not DFW, but which that's apparently a record.
Yeah.
So
well, that's a good sized town. So how many square feet of industrial are in Baton Rouge?
40 million.
Yeah.
And my pitch about Baton Rouge just briefly is state capital, flagship university, and a massive petrochemical corridor. I mean, there are plants lining the Mississippi River everywhere you look. And none of those things, those are all sticky. State capital's not going anywhere, LSU's not going anywhere, and those plants aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
At least anytime soon.
No.
So.
Do you ever get to do business with any of those companies on the port side of stuff? Or
not really. I mean, I've tried calling even the port of Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And they were surprisingly not as broker friendly as I thought. I mean, I had a tough time getting to them. And those huge plant corporations, I hope to get there one day. I want to sell them 400 acres on the river.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not really my focus right now. And the time it would take to try to land Exxon,
Yeah.
I mean, they have a national broker anyways, I guess.
Call JLL.
Yeah. Right.
JLL, insert person here.
Right.
Beep. So,
but yeah, so, and there are really three, well, you could somewhat argue four submarkets in the Baton Rouge MSA, industrial submarkets. And I have the oldest of the four.
Okay.
It's called the South Choctaw corridor.
Okay.
And it's one really long road with through streets on either side. And yeah, I'm loving it. It's most of the buildings were built in the 70s or 80s. New construction there is like
that's new for me.
Oh, really?
I mean, everything I worked on was built in the 50s and 60s.
There's some, but yeah, I think. Well, I say that a lot of these people don't know when the buildings were.
Jeff at one time wanted to brand Mercer Company as we're really good at buildings built before 1960.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. What's crazy is that area has a bad reputation in town, but if you drive it, it's like major company after major company. It's like, it's a major artery.
Yeah.
Tons of big names have their footprint there.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have a honey hole.
Yeah. So you won't have any, there's probably no national brokerage. The JLLs, the CBREs of the world, the Colliers of the world, they don't have an office there, right?
No. There's a CBRE and a Colliers in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And the CBRE guy does some industrial stuff.
But the CBRE guy.
Yeah.
There's not like a team there of people. Because New Orleans isn't a very big industrial market either.
No, it's not. And I'd be lying if I told you what the square footage was.
Yeah.
But he's got, I think, one guy right now on this, it's him and one other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Great guys, Bryce and Jack. But yeah, there's most of the brokerages in Baton Rouge and in New Orleans and in Lafayette are locally owned.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that gives you, they give you the opportunity. So what is the mix of users there? Is it, or I guess the mix of your business, is it buyer rep, tenant rep, or is it everything? Or like, but where are you weighted at?
We primarily, as a firm, so we're submarket specialists, but we're not just industrial.
Yeah.
We have office.
Yeah. You kind of have to. 40 million feet, especially with another guy in the office, is really not enough.
Right. We primarily pursue listings. Yeah. That's the goal, sale or lease listings. We're calling. When I called Jeff Mercer, it's because he owned a building off of Choctaw, and I called him to first see if he wanted to sell his building.
Yeah.
But listings.
Please don't say lease. Please don't say lease.
It's ironic. I'm moving more and more towards. Yeah, golly, I've closed 20 deals this year so far.
Oh my gosh!
And a lot of those are leases.
Yeah, but still.
And a lot of them are, 6%,
direct
upfront, or even but across, like, there's some annual payers out there. I don't know how common that is in the.
I got one,
but
I got a lot of square footage.
If I'm going to do a small lease, I want to get away from the annual.
Yeah.
At the very least, you know. But so, all I have to say, 20 deals, but some of them are just marginal,
Yeah, but at the same time, I will say this. I think a big thing for brokers is I see some brokers that been in the business 10 years and they don't do a deal for a month, sometimes two. And I'm like, that just shows you weren't consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm closing deals weekly for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's a good feeling, you know, just to know I've got momentum. But yeah, we pursue listings, but buyers, I've done just as much buyer rep. I don't do a ton of tenant rep, and there aren't a ton of big tenants, which I know that's the bread and butter of Mercer, but I do a ton of buyer rep deals.
That might be more the bread and butter of us, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Tenant rep? Okay.
I kind of group them somewhat in the same food group, because you're out there hunting for the deal or for the property, for the prospect. But a lot of owner users with, that was mine. I did a ton of tenant rep, but man, like selling a guy a 30,000 foot building, that was like fairway shot for me.
Yeah. My biggest deals have all been buyer rep deals. I love it. The only issue is, man, if you can get control of, like, I have a buyer list a mile long. Like, I if something gets listed, I can bring a buyer. I've got categories for them, you know, and I know what their buy box is, all that stuff. But if I can, there are way more buyers than there's listings or inventory, you know, which is a reason to go call on listings. But if I could just get the listings and control, you know, that side, it makes it easier.
No, it does. I think when I was full steam ahead, I was probably rolling 20 listings and 20 tenant buyer rep assignments at a time, you know, and just cycling those, and, you know.
Right now I've got about 40, 45 listings.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, some of them are higher quality than others.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
And buyer reps, I'm probably in the 20 or 30. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. But according to Jeff, you know, based on those numbers, I need an April.
Yeah, you probably do need to. If you're doing 20 deals a month.
Oh, I've closed 20 deals.
I mean, I'm sorry, 20 deals this year. That's still a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on pace to do, you know, 80.
Yep.
I mean, I think when I was rolling hard, it was 70 deals a year, you know, because I remember one month I closed a 2,500 square foot lease. I think on the same day, I got a 2,500 square foot lease executed and a 250,000 foot lease executed.
Yeah.
You know,
that can be my day too. I mean, that's, you know, the biggest deal I've closed this year is an 80,000 foot investment sale. FedEx is the tenant.
Oh, wow.
The buyers are they were on Chad's podcast.
Okay.
And I called them.
Oh, yeah.
After they were on the podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. There you go.
So, TrueCore.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come. They're in Tulsa. They're based in Tulsa.
Are those the CBRE guys out of Tulsa?
No. They were with Stan Johnson Company, which sold to Northmark, but great guys.
Cool. Yeah.
Hunt and Zach. Jeff's spoken to them, but.
What does a 80,000 foot FedEx in Baton Rouge trade for in a cap rate?
8.
It's not bad, honestly. How many years on the lease?
4 left.
Okay.
So TrueCore is a value add buyer.
Yeah.
And kind of 5 years would be the max I think that they would want on a term. But the renewals at fair market value, the rates at least $1, like very conservatively.
Yeah.
$1 below, you know. And really the pitch, like there are so many big users in Baton Rouge, local users, who have like 15 buildings, you know, that are like 10,000 square feet each. So, you know, there's multiple ways out of that trap, you know, in 4 years, you know, renew them at fair market value or sell to a local user.
Yeah.
You know, they're out there for sure.
Yeah.
But so it's an 8 cap, but there's some upside too.
Yeah.
You know, just.
There's some mark to market.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hate to use the all the jargon,
the bro terms. Yeah,
but anyways, yeah. So thinking about, I'm reading a book about different team structures, and I'm curious because I think on your podcast, it's with someone you mentioned that you were always a lone wolf, or
I was. I had a teammate for a while. I don't think I'm. When I am in full broker mode, I'm not a good teammate.
Yeah.
Give me the ball.
Right.
Give me the ball. Get out of my way.
I think I tend that way.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be, you know, long term with like being able to go on vacation, you know, or just shut off so I can be more present to family or whatever. That's where having a teammate where I can just say, hey, I'm going to be gone for this week. Just handle everything unless it's a fire.
Man,
you know?
I'll tell you what. I think that might be rockstar admin.
Yeah.
Teammate.
That's
transaction coordinator.
That's where I'm heavily leaning. Heavily. I mean, it's more about just finding the right. I've prayed for an April. I've said like, Lord, send me an April.
Yeah. Well,
you know, not that that's what April is right now.
That's Isabella for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, and you know, when you see like, there's a title company I use for everything, and it's like their team. It's like they're just, I want them. You know, like I know what I want. I just got to find them and figure out how it works within the larger company.
Maybe that's what you need to call on for a while.
Title companies?
No, just individuals.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I need to make a list of 20 individuals and call on them.
Yeah, that's a thought.
That's how I sold my steel company. I went and interviewed a business broker, and I think he told me he could sell it for around 2.5 to 3 million, and wanted a 10% fee.
Yeah.
And I was like,
the 10%. Man.
I was like, bro, you're good. You're probably pretty good. And for someone, some business owner, they'd probably use it. So I took a Mercer Company Act database and I loaded up all the buyers I thought would buy it. I just cold called them.
Yeah.
And I moved them up like T's and E's. Like, okay, all right. Called them. They're, T3. They came and toured my building and, looked at our facility. They're T2, now I'm actively, and I ended up having a financial buyer and I had a strategic buyer. Wow. And 2 offers. So
that's great. Yeah, it might put us out of business, but man, if I was trying to sell my building, or business, like I'm going to call the neighbors,
dude,
the number,
the layup.
I just closed on a building. So just a funny story, but a small building in one of the other submarkets. It was listed for lease. I had the buyer that a banker sent me, called the agent, and I said, hey, would they sell? And the agent said, yeah, it has to be for top dollar. And when he told me the number, I held my,
The real estate beacon was like going off at full blast. Like, you're like, be quiet.
Blood is in the water. Blood is in the water.
Yeah.
So I called the guy and said, hey, he'll sell. It has to be for top dollar. When I told him the number, he started laughing. We closed within 30 days and it appraised for, it was a 6,600 square foot building, but it appraised for $100,000 more than it, he bought it for.
That's great.
The neighbor is signing a 5-year lease. I typed it up last night.
Yeah.
5-year lease, and was so mad that he didn't get it. He leased it for like 10 years and the landlord tried to go up wanted to go up on the rate. So they left and they would have bought the building in a heartbeat. They're trying to get the guy to sell it to them for a premium. I mean, like they'll pay,
Oh,
more.
wait. So, but the tenant's already left, but they're coming back?
Yeah. So they're going to lease the building, but
the tenant that left is coming back to lease. So the building goes vacant and it's time to sell it.
It was like 9 months.
The next door neighbor buys it and the old tenant comes back to lease it.
No. The next door neighbor didn't buy it. But the next door neighbor is the tenant. He was using it for overflow.
Oh, so you sold it to someone else.
Investor.
Oh, okay.
But the neighbor would have bought it in a heartbeat for more than
totally.
And he was there. He was already. So we're getting a 5-year lease out of it at fair market value, And but I called that guy yesterday about the lease, the tenant, and he's like, I'm literally trying to find your client another building to 1031 into so that I can buy it from him. So, he's like shopping online to find him something. But
that's funny.
All that to say, just when I get a listing signed, I'm calling the neighbors first.
Dude, there's a broker in Dallas, good friends with him. But his mouth, he just diarrhea of the mouth all the time.
Wait until they sign.
And he told me, hey man, I'm getting this listing on this street. And I'm like, cool. I just left immediately and went and called all the neighbors.
Yep.
I got to him first.
Yeah. As soon as it, it gets listed. I mean, It'd be crazy. I mean, I'd love to see a percentage of how often the neighbor buys the building or someone within a mile radius. It's probably it's 90%.
Especially in those condensed industrial submarkets, right? Because people they don't want to move. They don't want to move their industrial facility. And then it's like, we can get another building for our operation. Okay, that's great, And then they're probably comfortable with the neighborhood already. So it's like, well, I can't use it right now, but maybe I can lease it for 3 years and then our business needs it or something.
That particular business that's leasing, they have like 6 buildings on that street. That's the perfect example of someone who might buy the FedEx. I mean, if you combine those, that's an 80,000 foot footprint. And
how inefficient is that?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, or it is.
I had 2 facilities. At one point, I got up to 90,000 feet with my steel company, and I had a 60,000 foot facility in Fort Worth and a 30,000 foot facility in Arlington or Grand Prairie. And dude, just the inefficiencies of having you can't like manage people. You don't know who's doing what, and
I believe it.
So anytime someone is in multiple buildings, they are primed at some point to put it under one roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. The biggest user sale I've done, or the biggest commission I've earned. It's not the biggest sale price. The FedEx deal was the largest sale price to date, but it was a user sale where they combined 3 cities into one 50,000 foot building.
Yeah.
And they love it and are pumped about it, and just made sense for warehousing purposes and all that.
Yeah.
So
no, it's if you can watch what users are doing and the puzzle pieces you can play with them. If you know if your sub markets, like some guy just showing up can't do that, right? Some guy showing up to a market when they hire their buddy, that works at Keller Williams or whatever, and he shows up to do this deal. He can't put those puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, we were talking about that shallow bit multi-tenant building. It was with like a residential agent an hour away for like a year. Great building. I took it over recently, and I mean, it was more vacant than it wasn't. 24,000 feet, multi-tenant.
Yeah.
And we've got one suite left, 1,700 square feet left now.
Yeah.
And I'm showing it Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
And that's just me. 6,000 square feet of that was like a tenant called me and was like, "What do you got?" And it was, I knew what I had and what I didn't have. We put them in there within a day. It was a great lease, quick, good deal. So, anyways, yeah, just the value of having somebody boots on the ground.
That's another challenge too for us in Small Bay is, I could see it working in a smaller market like that because you need product to work on. Here in Dallas, like, no one gives a shit about that stuff. Really? On the leasing end of it.
Yeah.
I have an LP of mine, and he's starting to develop Small Bay. And he called me the other day, and he goes, "Hey, what do you do on leasing?" I go, "Well, I'll tell you what I do, and I tell you what I would do. What I do right now is I try to find a young guy somewhere that cares about it. But you got 2 years max with that guy, and then he's not going to care." But I think Small Bay, you better, if you're like in a Dallas market, you better bring it in house and just pay a guy a good salary and then pay him some bonuses on commissions. And
right.
Somebody that wants to learn real estate and they're going to property manage it a little bit too, because those things become businesses more than they do just a piece of real estate.
Right.
So,
but on that note, with leasing small spaces, whether it's, I sold a little portfolio early on in my career. It was like 9 buildings that were 3,000 to 6,000 square feet. Sold them quick, cash deals. But man, if I'm going to sell to an investor, like a lot of my leasing is in the building. I sold the building to the investor.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's hard to let go of that. I haven't done it, and I don't think I will. It's like the price you pay almost for.
Well, I think the thing that you have to determine in your brokerage career is it hard to let go of it because of ego or because you really feel like you're the best person to work on it and you want to work on it? Because what happens for me a lot of times I feel is a guy sells me a building and then the work begins, right? The leasing part of it. Like, and then they're like,
yeah.
I don't want to work on this.
Right. It helps when you get paid not annually. There are incentives.
I don't pay guys annually, but unless they bring me someone who's like, this might last 6 months.
Yes, suspect.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, but, I think sometimes, like, there's one broker I work with. He'll sell me something. I'll be like, "You want to lease this?" He's like, "Hell no." I'm like, "Okay,
honest.
Good." Well, you know what? He realizes his time's better spent on selling us another building.
Yeah.
Versus
as long as he thinks it is leasable.
That's the thing. Another thing too is like, I think sometimes, I don't know, I struggle with this when I go from broker to principal side of things, but like, when I was a broker, I felt like I should sell it to you, I should list it, and I should get to sell it, right? And most of the times I did, and I was the guy for it, right? But there was times, and I'll speak more to the investment world of things, right? Like, I have a Small Bay project, and finally my third brokerage that I, after firing 2, got it leased up, They ain't the guy to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough too. I mean,
And you know what? I'm going to put it on the market and sell it. And I'm literally going to put it on the market with a guy that wrote a book on flex industrial. Like wrote the book.
yeah.
Like that's all they do. You know,
Right.
hey, we sell flex industrial. We
Yeah.
sell these small bay buildings.
I mean, that's me leasing up the shallow bay 24,000 feet. I mean, part of it is the long-term gain. He's a buyer another way, you know, he's doing deals outside of that,
Yeah.
you know, but I know he wants to sell it
Yeah.
within 3 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that angle. And I know he would, in this case, he would use, you know, I'd be the guy for it.
Sure.
But,
well,
you know.
I'm going to bake in a fee for my listing broker that did the leasing.
I think that's great.
Yeah. I still think they'll be mad about it though.
Yeah. But you're a pretty generous guy.
I know.
You know.
I'll tell you a funny story about fees. Some guy from Stream in Denver calls us listen to us on a podcast. He calls Will. He's like, hey, I got this building in Oklahoma City. We're like, cool. We log everything that comes to us that, you know, is in a market we would buy. So we pull up the building address. We're like, oh, this other broker brought this to us in 6 months ago, and we offered on it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the building had gone to market, and the broker that we offered with originally never brought it to us then. We just made an offer and like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then it came on the market with some residential broker, and then this Stream guy brought us to it. Mm. So we make an offer. We're really close on the deal. We go up there to tour it. The Stream guys out of Denver sets up the tour with the residential broker in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City guy pretty much tells Will, hey, I'll just pay that guy a referral. And Will's like, no, like he was just trying to pay him like 20% or something, mm-hmm. right? And keep the whole thing. So anyways, in the middle of all that, we call the guy that brought us the deal.
Really?
Yeah. And we said, listen, you brought this to us 6 months ago. Nothing happened. It came on the market. You didn't bring it up. Mm-hmm. We've got a point baked in. We're going to let this Stream guy run it on the front end because he brought it back up to us again. Mm-hmm. We're going to pay you a point and you're getting the leasing for it. He was so upset with us.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to me.
Just wait. This gets better. We get the deal negotiated and the seller comes back and cuts all the broker's fees. Like cuts them in half to do the deal. And I was like, you know what? Will calls me and he goes, dude, I got this dude mad at me. And then the guy out of Denver wants the local guy that we're going to hire to lease it to pay him a 25% leasing referral commission.
Yeah.
So the guy, Will, calls me. He goes, man, this is what I'm dealing with. I got all these people that are so upset about what they're going to make on this deal between these two brokers, the listing broker and the seller. He goes, we don't have to do this, but all these people need this to happen. Yeah. I go, you're right. Just terminate it.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. And then everybody's like, what? What's wrong? I was like, y'all just got too greedy.
Yeah.
Like, just forget it.
Right.
And everybody was so butthurt over it.
Did it, you actually, I mean, you didn't buy the deal?
No, I didn't buy the deal. I was like, I don't give a shit. I see 100 million in deals a week.
Yeah.
I don't need this building.
Right.
I'll get another one next week.
Yeah. I tell you, that brings up a point to me of the longer I'm in it, which isn't that long.
Yeah.
Just I like working with people that I like working with.
Yeah.
Like if I can just do deals with people that are easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you understand them. Even you'll get guys. I've had guys that are really difficult, but I understand them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can work through your BS.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
And there's other features that they have that you like. You know, but wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It was.
I thought maybe that was. I mean, I knew it wasn't a bluff, but maybe that would, change their minds or. oh no, the seller will pay like he said he would, or whatever. But
yeah,
good on you to. I mean, that's a lesson learned. Hey, don't be greedy. Don't be difficult.
Yeah,
overly difficult or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
or like don't assume you did everything because
right.
maybe you didn't.
That's interesting how you played it though with the broker who brought it to you originally, but didn't bring it back when it got listed.
Yeah,
I mean, but then this other guy brought it. Like, I'm sure a buyer could say they would treat the 6 months ago as I've seen this already. I'm going to go through them. I know buyers that would do that for sure.
I know a lot of buyers that wouldn't too, though. They'd be like, "Hey man, like
the ship sailed.
We tried with you and it didn't happen."
Yeah, that's good to know that that's how you treat it. But I also think that the point, to the original guy and the leasing was more than fair.
Yeah, and then he was probably going to sell it.
Yeah,
right.
It's
so,
good on you for trying to loop everybody in.
Yeah. So, I really cared about this guy's relationship too, and so I was like, hey man, I'm paying you on this. But it was funny when we were like, we're not doing it. He's like, what? Yeah. I was like, oh, you're not upset anymore? You were kind of upset.
Yeah.
So but it all worked out. We bought a $6.5 million deal off of him in January.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah. So the relationship wasn't severed.
No. It worked out fine. Yeah. It worked out better that we didn't do it, right? Because like no one kind of had a bad taste in their mouth at the end of it, Yeah.
Worked out.
So, but you did a good job on your homework over there. So did you put an answer to every question?
I did, but I haven't read off of it once. But just in case you asked any of them, I was like, I want to have thought about each of these.
Yeah. Well, what's your most awkward cold call you've made so far?
Yeah. So early on, this was a call. We do more actual calling. Yeah.
Okay.
I called. I had gotten a buyer rep lead. Hadn't gotten anywhere yet, but he's got 100,000 feet in my submarket manufacturing, and just wants a more consolidated operation. Actually, ironically. Yeah. Anyways, I'm calling. I talked to him. Great. We looked at buildings. I'm working my list. Another day, I call a guy that I down the street really who does the same thing, but for whatever reason I mentioned this other guy. I'm trying to preserve names here.
Yeah, sure.
And when I mentioned, maybe to build a little rapport, like, oh, I'm working with this guy, or, just to show like, yeah, I'm in the market.
Yeah, you're working with relevant people.
Right. He said, oh, I know that mother effer. And he said, oh, I know what's going on. A bit, because I'm asking if he wants to sell or whatever. Oh, I know what's going on here. He said, if he's on speaker right now, he's thinking I'm like,
oh, like you're wearing a wire.
Yeah. And this guy's like, told me to call on him or whatever. If he's on speaker right now, you can tell that mother effer I made him what he is today. Oh. He said, and if he ever steps foot in my office, I'll shoot that mother effer. I mean, just like, very, and also just hated Baton Rouge. I had nothing but bad things to say about Baton Rouge. I want to get out of this shithole, all this, But he literally thought that this guy told me to call on him. He thought he was listening.
Yeah.
This other buyer, this guy, who had no interest in the property actually.
Yeah.
And then threatened to kill him if he ever walked. So I don't know what past they have. I have yet to call that guy back just because it's been over a year,
He might have forgotten by now.
But it was that was very early on,
Yeah.
So it was just I've never had a call like that where it was like, I know what's going on here. Just the suspicion, and then the murderous hatred.
I feel like a lot of the users feel like we're really trying to play some game with them a lot of the times. It's like, no, man, I'm just trying to make a fee.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to make a deal.
Yeah.
And they're like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah, just a simple question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime someone's being difficult with me, I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to earn a living.
Yeah.
My wife stays home full time, which I love, but like, I'm out here trying to, it's sales. We're in sales, which, anyways.
No,
so.
I just always find it funny when you call the guy, and maybe he's just suspicious of everybody, but he's just suspicious of you and what your intents are, and you're like, what's funny to me is like it's like they feel like I'm trying to make them do something I've felt before, and I'm like, aren't you a grown ass man?
Yeah,
like
you should be more secure in your in your convictions, I guess. Or
I had a client. I got him agreed to on a 100,000 foot deal. Waiting on the lease, they fired me. And he told me, because it cost them a lot of money because they would never agree to anything, and they got put in a holdover, and then they got moved out of the building, and I found them this is in 2022, late 21, early 22. I got them a Class A 100,000 foot building that would do a 3-year lease, which is in Dallas. Like those were flying off the shelf,
right.
And I got him a 6 month, 70,000 foot lease, all this stuff. Anyways, he calls me and goes, "Hey, we're going to fire you." I was like, I was totally thrown off of it. I had to share my fee with CBRE on that deal.
What did he say? Why?
He said CBRE had a better LOI. I was like, well, that's weak. We're at the attorney stage.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to just negotiate these points in the lease. But it's funny. He goes, well, they wanted 70,000 foot in like Valwood for 2 years. Like, that's like the hottest industrial market in Dallas.
Yeah.
During the hottest industrial market of all time.
Right.
For someone to do a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Right.
Well, I found it.
And they fired you.
They go, the price is too high. So they didn't do it. So that's what led the domino effect of their space getting leased, them getting pushed out, them having to go do a 6-month lease on something. So they had to move twice in 6 months, which is, terrible.
Right.
And so he told me, he goes, and when he told me he didn't want to do it, he goes, it's too much. I go, listen, man, this is all we have in this option. He goes, well, we'll just ride it out and hold over. They ain't going to lease that space. I was like, okay, man, I'll do whatever you want to do. But like, this is the deal. I got you your deal. No, it's too expensive. Okay. So he told me, he goes, you should have forced me to do that deal. And he's Korean, so they're kind of prideful, I guess, or, they don't want to be insulted. I mean, no one wants to be insulted, right? But I go, excuse me? I go, ain't you a grown-ass man? He goes, what? I go, yeah, you're a grown-ass man making your business decisions. I don't make your business decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
You make them.
Right.
And you decided not to do that deal. What do you want me to do? I can't sign the lease. I can't move your company. I can't make that decision for you. And I knew the relationship was over at that point. So I was like, all right, let's just get the gloves out. Let's go, man.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I've recently had a conversation. It was like, tell me, what's the truth? And I was like, do you really want to know the truth?
Yeah. And
I kind of silenced them, But I guess there's a fine line. Even early on, I'm thinking about what is a broker? Like what are we? People have their titles like advisor, commercial real estate agent, commercial real estate broker, commercial real estate advisor, like on LinkedIn, And there's a fine line. I think,
just not realtor.
Realtor, yeah, realtor.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's our, and each client's different. It's like some of them, like, you got to buy this deal. Just trust me. You got to buy it. I'm not going to sign for them.
Yeah.
And even if I do that, they may have their own hesitations, the tariffs or the whatever. But yeah, just that story makes me think how much we should push, or we're in sales. We want them to buy things.
Well, I think this brings up a really good point. I have seen some guys that I know. There's a broker I know, really, really good, really, really thorough, extremely thorough, to his detriment sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's looking for the reason for his client not to do it to protect his client.
Yeah.
What I don't think people don't think about is like sometimes guys just need to do a deal for their business. Like they need to get the building for their business. Their business is having a revenue constraint because their real estate can't operate. And, you know, I had a conversation with a real estate director for they have 30 billion feet of industrial. 30 million, sorry, not billion.
All of American.
Yeah. they're the tenant everywhere.
Yeah.
But they have 30 million square feet worldwide. And I did a deal for him in one of his buildings, and because they're kind of real estate people too. And he told me, he said, I go, why do you use the big corporate brokerages? Like, I can go get so much better value. I'll go fight like hell to get better value for you. They don't care about 25 cents. It doesn't matter. They need the facility for their business.
Right.
So that made me kind of think like, okay, I need to push, but like at some point, just let it happen.
Yeah.
Just let it happen. Don't fight on some issue that's, look, stuff can happen, you know, but there's issues that I've seen people die on hills on that I'm like,
And ultimately, every deal, I mean, I could convince any buyer not to buy a building. Sure. I mean, there's risk. It could be the deal that Jeff Mercer bought, you know, in Baton Rouge recently, which is like, it's hard to see a downside, but like, no one knows the future, and no one that property could sit vacant for 2 years for all, you know. I mean, you don't know. So even if everything looks right, you know. So just realizing that there is no literal perfect deal, you know, means you definitely want to point out obvious things, but don't oversell the negatives. You know,
if you want safe, go buy a ground lease,
right?
A 20-year ground
or
lease,
a CD,
or a CD, or go buy treasuries. You know,
that brings a little bit of an interesting point up. You know, you didn't ask it, but I thought my favorite question on this list was what's one thing you've changed your mind about in the past year or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a niche real estate answer, but you know, I have bought a few buildings.
Okay.
Outside of partnering on a few, and obviously for all the reasons people buy the tax. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
But the tax advantages, accelerated depreciation. You know, real estate professional, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty conservative guy.
Yeah.
You know, my house is paid for. I don't have any debt, consumer debt.
Yeah.
Personally. But I have seen firsthand that like when you buy a bunch of buildings, you make a good bit of money. You go buy a bunch of buildings. I mean, you're motivated to go make more money because your money's pretty tied up in illiquid assets. And that's part of the wisdom in buying real estate, I guess, is you're not being too flighty with your money.
It's like forced savings account.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But the theory, like what I've changed my mind on is I think I want to be a little more liquid, not way more.
Yeah.
And I'm not in an unsafe illiquidity right now.
Yeah.
But just so that I can like relax a little more, like and smell the roses with my wife, my 2-year-old, my baby about to come. Like I want to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just a deal junkie and I won't be able to do it even if I had all that money in an account. You know, there's probably some element of just me, you know, that I have to work through.
Yeah.
But that I have this year, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to buy a deal this year, even if it's like the juiciest deal, just to keep more liquidity and be able to like go home at night and not worry too much. You know?
Yeah. I think we've kind of said here recently, we're probably going to be a net seller this year versus a net buyer.
For the same reason or just because of the dynamics?
I think it's twofold. I think one of it is like, I mean, I put so much money in real estate last year.
Yeah.
Like we sold a building last year and made a ton of money on it.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife goes, I'm not even excited. I know this is all gone in 6 months.
We're about to roll into something.
You just go right into something else.
Yeah.
And, you know, we, you know, there's a thought on how you structure a private equity deal like I do, like a syndicated deal, or, I have a JV partner, but, it's similar type structure. And the light at the end of the tunnel for me is executing the business plan, right? So if I buy a building, get it leased, business plan's executed, I can sell that now for what my projected cap rate would be or whatever, And so if I sit in it, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me, and Jeff likes to always look at his deals and say, what's my return on equity, right? So, if he's got, I think his number's 5%. If his return on equity in a deal is less than 5%, like, so if he's owned it for a long time and the equity that's there and what he's getting yield off of it is, the perceived equity in the deal is less than 5, he's going to sell it.
Right.
Well, for me, that happens a lot quicker because I'm doing promotes, right? And so, like, I might be getting 8% cash flow because I stabilized at 8% yield, but my money in a promote situation is worth a lot more if I sell it.
Right.
So my return on equity goes to like a 3.
Yeah.
So we did that calculation the other day and we were like,
start selling. Yeah.
So, but fortunately too, there's ways to maneuver that. Like my JV partner, we kind of talked about it. I was like, man, there's some buildings I just don't want to sell. I want to own these for a long time.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we can restructure where, you can restructure it where you start getting promote out of cash flow and stuff like that. And that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I've even thought about taking the tax hit and just to have more. I mean, that's the theory.
Yeah.
The issue would be is if I if I sell a building to my tenant who wants to buy, which that's the case in one of these scenarios, which is great. It's like, yeah, do I just take the hit and live with it? But I do that. I take the hit, and then I'm still just as desperate for the next deal, just because I'm hardwired.
Yeah, yeah.
So and that's it might be a little bit of that.
Yeah.
As a former athlete, which I think maps on extremely well to our industry or any sales job.
Yeah.
And just my own internal drive.
Yeah. So what's your most unique deal you've pulled off?
Yeah, it's a sort of a convoluted answer, but that portfolio,
9 building,
one ownership, 5 cousins who don't like each other, which was very interesting. But I moved them quick.
Did they want $5 million for it?
No, and we sold them for good basis, and they were
reasonable.
Tough build, not the best buildings, below market rents, month to month, and it's worked out well for my buyers.
Mm-hmm.
One of those buildings in the portfolio was 6,000 square feet. There was the tenant in there was a flooring company, leasing month to month, no existing lease or whatever. When I first listed the building, I had to get in there and get the key. So I got the key from the owner of the flooring company. He came across the street. He was across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think much of the building I didn't know who he was. This is early on. And kind of wrote him off. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'm looking for some land. I want to build a new facility, for my company. I never heard of his company. And he said, all right, well, how much land? What's your budget? I don't know, 5 acres, 6 acres, $4 or $5 million. It's like, okay, is this guy real?
Yeah.
Start, going down the path. Oh, he's actually one of the largest flooring companies in the state.
Yeah.
Commercial flooring. So, that's one end of the deal is I get connected to this buyer through this, I thought he was a pretty small fish, leasing this little dumpy building.
Yeah.
Goes back to the multiple building discussion we've been having about versus one. This is that sale.
Yeah.
So anyways, he wants to buy land. I hadn't done a land deal at this point, but I'm sending him land listings galore for months. And at a certain point, I'm like, this is just never going to happen. It's just, I didn't spend a ton of time on it. And then one day he circled back up and said, hey, send me, let's go schedule to look at these 5 next week.
Mm-hmm.
So we have it scheduled. And the morning that we were going to go look at that land, I saw that there was a 50,000 foot building in my submarket that had been listed for a while for $7 million or something. And over the past few weeks, I saw, or months even, $500,000 reductions, like quickly, So I just shot him an email the morning of our tours. I said, by the way, this building, like, is this the size you want? It's the acreage you want? The seller seems to be pretty motivated. At that point, it was in the sixes, I think. And he said, let's go see that first. Like, let's go today. We went. The list agent basically was like, hey, this corporation's a national, they're about to vacate. They don't want it to be vacant for long. They're very motivated. I think we could get a deal done below 5. He just told me that. And it was listed for over 6.
Wow.
And that was in his budget.
Yeah.
The dude apparently, like, we toured it, apparently woke up at like 3 a.m. that morning and went and drove by it again. We made an offer that the next day, and it closed like 45. I mean, it was an easy 45 days, 45 days later, he bought it. It's his new headquarters. And that was really my like coming out part. That was my first big deal.
That's awesome.
First one that like got picked up by the press or whatever.
Yeah.
But it all started from like this junky portfolio.
Yeah.
Almost wrote him off. And it just goes to show you never know who you're dealing with,
Well, it also shows too, like, your buyer, you have to kind of think outside the box a little bit for your buyers and not just stay really tunnel vision on what they told you.
Yeah.
You got to expand their parameters a little bit without telling them you're expanding them,
right.
And show them things that might be in a different market.
Yep.
Or a different sub-market here especially like here in Dallas. They're like, oh, well, I'm not going more than 20 miles away. I'm like, man, you know how far 20 miles is in Dallas? Like, it could be an hour and a half,
right.
And so I think that's, just kind of constantly thinking about it, like, but hey, this fits, and then a lot of times it's like, oh,
you don't have to build a building. You don't have to spend a year.
Right.
Our broker says, I mean, it's not his phrase. I'm not sure if it is or isn't, but it's a common phrase. Don't say no for the prospect, which isn't exactly what you're saying. But send them the building, which is, it's just crazy. Our industry, so many of my deals, I think back and I'm like, I almost didn't send that FedEx deal to that buyer because I thought they were value add buyers and I knew this was a 4-year, like if I don't send that deal or this 50,000 foot user deal, I could think about almost every deal that it's like that one phone call. If you don't make it, it might not have made the deal.
Yeah.
It's a scary, it's exhilarating, but also like it makes you think you got to just not miss anything too.
Well, it's kind of like the joke of it's always in the last place you look.
Yeah. Right.
It's cool when you're working on a transaction for a while and then that one building comes up and you're like, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
This is it, locked in. Because it's not like, it's not like you're selling a 3-2.
No.
You can go get a DR Horton home all day long or whatever, what I mean? This is clear heights, land, loading, power,
I have multiple buyer rep deals that's like when it comes to the market, and maybe I need to do a better job of just calling on what's out there. But I've scoured the market for multiple buyers, users, Yeah. It's like it's just not there. But when I see it, I'll know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Absolutely. Well, what's a specific failure or setback that taught you an important lesson?
Yeah, I had to think about that one. And it's again kind of a strange answer maybe, but leaving the seminary.
Yeah.
Literally, I had people say, because I was viewed as someone who was going to make a good priest, like in that world, just friendly, talkative, smart, whatever. Multiple people say like, so you quit, huh? Or like, you couldn't make it, and which, and I didn't take it too personally, but strangely enough, leaving that world or to leave the seminary was like a pretty big ego cut because priests are like, you get it. Pastors are pretty well known in their own sphere. Mm-hmm. And so to like priests can be like almost like celebrities.
Yeah.
In Baton Rouge. We, there's like celebrity priests. We talk about that. You know? But so which isn't a good thing.
Yeah.
But that's not what you do it for. So that was hard to walk away from and to embrace more like anonymity.
Yeah.
You know? And it's funny though, it's like I'm learning more and more. Like I've told people about this podcast and I'm like, in our world, it's like it's a well-known podcast, but like, there's so many people who like have no idea who Matador Capital is. Like we're nobodies to a lot of people.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah.
And I've just, even in the printing world, it's like, now that I'm in the commercial real estate world, it's like, you're entering into this whole new world and you think it's like everything.
Yeah.
But it's really not. Now, commercial real estate, I'm learning like, man, this is like the infrastructure of our, I mean, you're seeing who some of the big players are who like run the city because they own all the buildings and blah, blah, blah. But even then, a lot of people have no idea who these big names are, you know? So, but anyway, so the lesson learned was like, I'm not that important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's okay. You know?
No, it's, I was telling my son one day, I was like, we were talking about real estate because he wants to do real estate because that's his cousins are doing and all that stuff. And I was like, well, just look around. It's everywhere. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's every piece of everything. Mm-hmm. So
it is cool to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I love this industry. I mean, I can't imagine being anywhere else for sure.
You know what's been really cool for me on it is like I'm kind of like one phone call away from somebody that does something very unique. Mm-hmm. Like I've had people be like, "Oh man, I need to get this done." I go, "Oh, I know the guy that owns the company that does that because I've walked in his warehouse 100 times." You know,
what's crazy? One of your questions is what's something I'm working on right now. I'm working with a guy on a new development, like construction, smaller, but it'll be, one of the first ones I do like that, or the first one, I guess. And I'm learning so much. First of all, I'm learning a ton about development and all that, which I'm pretty good at selling and leasing buildings, really. Yeah. But to be a good broker, I think you got to know land and development and construction too. Yeah, I think. Or it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Yeah, it helps.
It helps.
But he literally was like, "Man, if you know, I own 10% in a bank in Arkansas. It's a 2-branch bank. If you know anyone who can buy my shares, I want to sell and buy more real estate." Yeah. And I literally made a phone call. Like I was like, I actually know somebody, and they're like, they want to buy the whole bank.
Yeah,
it's a bank, but I know them personally. Yeah, I know the CEO and one of the founding members, and they jumped on it. So it is cool to be able to
get a fee on that.
And someone asked me that, and I'm like, I just.
You know how to ask for it.
Yeah, I'm like, my fee is like this buyer getting his money and buying, doing deals. But yeah, it didn't come up, and I don't do business brokerage. Maybe I need to ask for 10%.
I've sold 3 companies for people before.
Really? I've done one business deal, but I wasn't the seller agent. I rep the buyer. So.
Yeah, no, I've had multiple listings where I sold the business too.
Okay, those can get. We have business broker in Baton Rouge that I work well with that I try to kind of loop in and do together because I'm not a business savvy guy. Yeah,
I've just done it. I've bought a couple companies and I've sold a few.
Yeah, you're way more suited for it than I would be. I would be doing more than a disservice. I'd be negligent to try.
It's really sad on a lot of these people's businesses is when you get their P&L out, they're making money, and then when you mark to market the rent they're charging themselves, their business ain't worth anything.
We met with a guy recently about a sale leaseback, big company. Yeah. They have a presence in more than one state, and literally he told me I don't want to sell and lease back because I want to. If my company dips, they play with their rent, based on how the company's doing, and pay themselves less or more, So
no, I mean it's like, hey, if a buyer comes in here and they don't own the property, they're gonna have to.
Yeah, that's his biggest. That's his biggest hesitation, and frankly, I don't know how to overcome that objection. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, man, that's a hedge against, your business, going up, going under.
Yeah, yeah,
just pay yourself less on the rent.
Well, I mean, that's what I did a renewal for a client of mine. They're in 17,000 feet. And they went from 550 to 1050 net. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, y'all just took the owner's salary out of the equation.
Yeah.
At some point, like businesses are like, I'll just go work somewhere.
I'm curious, what is the highest per square foot rent in Dallas? I don't care
On
the size.
industrial?
Yeah, industrial. I don't care the size. I'm just curious, like per square foot, what's the most someone's pay? I'm guessing Shallow Bay, small.
Well,
Is the
you're including iOS. I think you probably got to take that out of the equation.
Yeah,
because it gets too skewed with land number. I mean, like
is anything in the 20s?
I mean, we just leased a building at $20 a foot, but it's 18,000 feet on 2.5 acres.
Okay,
so you know what I mean. Like, so that skews it. But I think probably the highest you're looking at is going to be Shallow Bay stuff. I mean, people are asking 15 on that stuff net. Okay.
That's 15 is like I have no knowledge of a 15 in Baton Rouge.
I have no knowledge of it in DFW either because I think it's total bullshit. But I've gotten proposals. Like there's a group buying a park right now, and in the middle of buying the park had a 6,000 foot tenant renewing in it, and they sent them a renewal at 15 net. And I was like, all right, see you later.
The upper limit that I think Cole did a lease when he was still with us.
Yeah,
at 14, about 14. It had a lot of yard. It was a global tenant, but
yeah.
That like the highest is like the highest list that you see out there is like 12, 13.
Yeah.
And that's in like
consistent.
new construction market.
Though I feel like kind of secondary markets like a Baton Rouge or like I've seen this like in Lubbock, like, similar. They got like 35 million feet of industrial there. So it's probably similar. Like, I mean, like the rental rates kind of hold a little more just because it's all that's out there.
South Choctaw is average 5 to 6 net.
Yeah. I mean, but that's what Brook Hollow should be right now. Everybody's trying to get 850, but no one's leasing their building.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the 5 to 6. 8's the highest, and 3 is the, there's a range, but not, 8's like record setting on Choctaw.
Yeah.
So.
Now, and that's more like a 20,000 foot building?
It varies. Yeah. I mean, I had one 3,000 feet with yard, fully concrete yard, and then one was like 15,000 feet with docks.
Yeah.
Those are both 8.
Yeah.
Triple net. But I mean, I feel good about 5 and 6. Like that's for just your, anywhere from 3 to 15,000 feet.
Yeah.
You're safe there. So.
No, it's it's interesting. We were looking at a deal in Austin, and we were having to compete with new construction on it, and with all the oversupply, it's like they're dropping their rates, and it's like 9 when we were going to be looking at like 12s, on a 150,000 foot, So I don't know. There's a lot of dynamics come into it, At the end of the day, it's what someone will pay you for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's even within any submarket, there's such variation.
Yeah.
A few buildings down, so
yeah.
It depends on the need of the tenant. If they need to have something right now or whatever. I mean, all that factors in.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, well, what's something that no one knows about you?
Yeah. I think, there are a few people who would know. Well, so I came up with 2 things. One that's more of a joke, but so I played football. I'm good at basketball. I play pickup, but my best sport and my favorite sport is a sport that my wife doesn't even consider to be a sport. It's ping pong. She literally thinks it's just like a kid, because it's like you have tennis and you have it's like kids tennis,
Yeah.
Like it's an Olympic sport, But
well, you're getting closer. You're getting closer. We're down to pickleball now.
Yeah,
the next step is ping pong.
Yeah. Seriously, pickleball's all the rage, obviously, everywhere. But so love ping pong.
Yeah,
I played for hours and hours as a kid.
You're just like Forrest Gump there.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident against anybody. Like I feel like I'm pretty darn good at ping pong. But and then the other one was while I was in the seminary, I almost became a monk.
Really?
I went and visited this monastery in Wyoming.
Yeah,
and thought I was going to get joined. And it's like you stay there. You get to come. I think you get visitors once. Your family can see you once a year. It's like a really intense thing.
Yeah,
I went there because I'm a pretty contemplative guy. Like the ideal me would like just be in the woods, reading a book or praying or whatever. But they were actually the ones when I got there, they were like, yeah, I think this was 2 years in, and they were almost like prophetic. I don't know. They were like, have you ever thought about just getting married? Like they sort of planted the seed of like, yeah, you might just need to go home and like be married, And that was like, that was the beginning, I think, of the end.
Yeah.
of my time.
That was the ripple.
Which is crazy because I went up there thinking I was going to join, and they were like, within like a day, they were like, yeah, you probably just need to go home.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, I could have been a cloister monk, which is like the total opposite of.
Yeah, you had no intentions of getting married at that point.
Yeah, I was prepared not to be married, and I was okay with it, Yeah. But, it's crazy.
Golly. And I mean, when you're a monk, that's like, you're in for life, right? I mean,
you take a perpetual vow. And but they were very intense. I mean, they're like fasting all the time and prayer. I mean, they're an intense monastery for sure. But military like. Yeah.
That's joining a clan for sure.
Yeah. It's like your family. It becomes your family.
Yeah.
But
well, you went from that to becoming a complete real estate addict.
Yeah. And I talked to Jeff recently about he basically accused me of being an addict. Yeah. It's like, do you ever turn it off? And I was like, don't tell my wife that, and she's going to hear it now. But
sure.
I said, but I was like, were you an addict at one point, Or would you consider yourself an addict or whatever, And he said, I'm recovering. I'm in recovery. I thought that was funny.
He still is.
Yeah. But he's, I mean, when I'm Jeff's age, I want to be a little more chill. Yeah. And it seems like he's, he's not being rushed. There's no urgency to like broker.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really broker at all,
No,
but,
not much. But
he's not to be rushed, and that's, I want to be at least there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when I feel like I'm getting there, because when guys rush me now, I'm like, I don't care. It's funny. Cole's real pushy,
Yeah.
He likes to kind of like push us sometimes. And I'm like, that don't work on me, dog.
Yeah. and that's it's good to know, generally people like my aggressiveness or my follow up, but I know it turns off some people, and part of that's on me to read the room and know who I'm dealing with. Jeff, I was sending Jeff a lot of deals, and at one point he sent me an email. It was like, hey man, you're doing so well. Like, it was like affirming, but it was like, but I'm limiting you to 1 email a day. He was like, consolidate your emails.
Yeah.
Like send me 1 message a day.
Yeah.
So
it's like, I'll be honest with you. I think for the first quarter, I quit reading my email.
Yeah.
There's so many of them.
Yeah.
And between guys like he and I, it's like, we're copied on every email to every bank.
Yeah.
Because we have to be. Do you know how many banks we have?
On the deal he closed, he was like, basically, it was with the title company.
Yeah.
They were coordinating everything, and he was like, can you take me out of the, like April was on it, and he was like, please remove me from this thread or whatever.
Yeah. It's like the other day I got an invoice for a leasing commission that we owe somebody, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Why are people sending this to me?
Yeah.
Like, we have a department for that.
Right. Yeah. It's a good, I mean, I appreciate being challenged, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to be, not assume everybody wants me to send them everything at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think guys like that just need, I mean, like us too. It's like when we had a guy, he would send us a deal. It was just like, it was more like, just let me get it to you first.
Mm-hmm.
No thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know the pricing. It was just all this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's what you're doing,
no.
Like,
it's something that I've thought about though. It's like, it can ruin your, the further you get in, you don't want to ruin your reputation by just sending every deal, trying to be the first to, when I first started, I was desperate. I'm like,
sure.
I got to close deals, know, but now as I learn people's buy box, their temperament, and as I'm trying to value my time. I'm like, what's the chance that Jeremy's going to buy this deal?
Yeah.
Very slim,
Yeah.
So,
It's not worth
I think I sent y'all one thing in the last few months.
And I feel like you've always sent good stuff, but I think I just told you, I was like, man, my capital won't go there.
Yeah.
So like, it's
Just need Jeff to talk to your capital.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I bought in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Can have,
There's basis buys out there for sure.
Oh, I'm sure there is. It's just a matter of it doing it, you know, and, but I just don't have the reps doing it. So it'd be like, Jeff wants to buy a big building. Okay, well, I'll go raise some money for it. But it helps to have someone that has experience in the market.
Did he tell you about the first of the two that he bought?
No.
Did he give you the details? It was like, just real quick. I know we're probably going to wrap up, but listed at like $20 a foot. Nice building.
Yeah.
Sells vacant for $50. It had 2 years left on the lease. They're paying less than $2 net, like $1.36 net.
Yeah.
2 years left, no renewal options. But they were selling it on a cap rate basis at like a 6 cap, you know? But $22 a foot.
Yeah.
$1.30 net. I mean, a market for that is like conservatively. I mean, like $450 a foot. Conservatively.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
It appraised, the appraiser, it appraised for more than double what he bought.
I believe it.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was a decent sized building. So we'll see, you know, we'll see what happens in 2 years. Because the market is very far away from, but the tenant invested heavily in it. It's very nice. Jeff, when he walked out of the building, when he came down to look at it, obviously owns a lot of buildings. He said, I have a new name for deals like this. No effing brainer. For him to say that about a deal, to me, I'm like, and in April called me and was like, he's super pumped about this deal.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was kind of cool because I almost didn't send it to him.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It was like, because it's a 6 cap, you know.
Yeah.
The way he saw it was like, well, and he read it right, you know.
Yeah.
But super functional building. No yard, but like an airplane hangar door. You know, the roll-up door was literally like an airplane hangar.
That's cool.
Yeah, just functional, but
yeah. No, that's well, you know, I know you just kind of know when you walk in a building sometimes. Like I'll walk into deals, like we offered on a deal, we got it agreed to. We weren't allowed to tour it yet. And when I toured it the other day, and I just walked out and I went, nah.
Really?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but then I've walked into some and I've been like, this is it.
Where do I sign?
Yeah. When do we close?
Yeah.
I don't care what's wrong with it. It's probably fine.
I love it. Yeah. And you developed that eye.
Yeah. So. Well, man, I'm glad we got to link up and do this.
Yeah.
Glad you had a trip to Dallas.
This was so cool. Yeah. And I you know, obviously I've gotten to know Jeff well and somewhat you, but y'all are great guys. So it's cool to have connections here in Dallas.
Yeah.
Another reason to come up.
Yeah.
So.
There you go.
Yep.
So
thanks again.
Well, man, Alex Ruch, everybody.
Call him Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge. There you go. All right, man. Thank you.
Yep.